report. So this is Harry Morton, who comes to our 6 p.m. service, for those of you who don't know him, and he's taken over from Mike Evans. A very warm welcome to you.
Thank you. Can you hear
Harry
me?
is a chartered surveyor during the day.
Yeah, so not around during the week. Well, I'm up in London. So I'm head of finance, head of the finance committee, and we've got a slide, hopefully. Very exciting. This is going to be a bit dry for some of you, but bear with me. We've got some slightly prettier graphs later. First, I'm going to start by taking you through the financial statements, which are in the back of the annual report. So that's the A4 sheet you've got, from page 16 to the end. I must emphasize that we're going back in time, so we're talking about 2017 and the situation up until the end of December 2017. They start with my Treasurer's report on page 16, followed by the Independent Examiner's report on page 17, which confirm that there's no adverse matters that have come to their attention. Next comes the sexily named SOFA, Statement of Financial Affairs. Page 18, you notice we're not going through the figures as we go. The report sets out an analysis of our income and expenditure using headlines prescribed by the Charities Act. These are all explained on the notes on page 19, then the balance sheet is on page 20, and that sets out our assets and liabilities, and the assets are made up of the curate's house, various investments, and bank balances. On pages 21 and 22, there is analysis of the income and expenditure for all our funds, indicating whether they're completely unrestricted, i.e. the general fund where the church's everyday income and expenditure is allocated, a designated fund where money has been set aside by the PCC for certain projects, or it's a restricted fund which has to be spent in the way laid out by the donor. The fund totals agree back to the SOFA on page 18. It's gripping stuff, isn't it? The different funds are explained in the additional notes on pages 23 and 24. Right, now I've explained the geography of the financial statements, I can get on with the main points. Tim. Looking at the statements of financial affairs on page 18, SOFA. Incoming resources from donations and gifts and the taxman. This is increased due to a legacy we received in 2017 of 180,000. In fact, it was 175,000 plus another legacy of 5,000. But our incoming resources are otherwise up 26,000, ignoring the legacy, which is great news. Similarly, the decrease in our resources used, which is the money we've spent, is due to a higher spend on projects in the previous year, and then some expenditure which we were going to spend last year, we've moved forward, some of the building expenditure, we've moved forward to this year. So thus it's down 14,000. The net movements in funds is a positive number again, because of the 180,000 of legacies, plus the underspend in 2017 on capital projects, resulting in improvement in our net balance of 214,000, as opposed to a shortfall in the year before of 36,000. Looking at the general fund only, which you can find on page 21, or there's even more detail on page 25, that's where most of our everyday income and expenditure goes. There was technically an increase in our balance at the year end, but this was bolstered by part of the legacy money. We had moved 100,000 over when it first arrived, but we hadn't moved over a further 80. So really, it's actually really a deficit of 22,525, as opposed to the year before where we had a deficit of 5,900. So we basically were using up our current account at a little bit of a rate. The cash balances on page 20, total current assets, represent the cash and balances across all the different funds and are again high due to the £180,000 legacy. The total funds are set out at the bottom of page 20 and again in more detail on pages 21 and 22. So you can see whether they're restricted or not. At this point, I would like to publicly thank 3 people who have kept the finances in such good shape. Pam Fox, who does an amazing job paying all the bills and maintaining the accounts, while Judith Bundock, our stewardship coordinator, deals with all the giving and the gift aid returns, and also brings together the annual report and financial statements. And finally, I'd like to thank Mike Evans, who has been treasurer for the last 3 years and continues to mentor me as I learn the intricacies of accountancy. I'm not an accountant, I'm a chartered surveyor. So where did our money come from in 2017? The income totaled 494,000. Now, just under 265,000 came from you guys and the taxman, that's the big blue section. And the income from ancillary trading is mainly weddings, fees, use of the church, and the centre. Next slide. However, if we take out the one-off legacy of 180, then our real income was 314,000, an increase of 21,000 on last year, or 3.5%, which is great. Again, 265,000 came from you guys. That's 84% of our income. Ancillary trading is a further 5%, while other income includes grants, events like the church weekend, which is technically an income as we pay for it, investment income, reimbursement of village expenses. So where did our money go in 2017? Well, expenditure totaled just over 335,000. That compared to our income of 311. Staff team costs have become the single highest item of expenditure at nearly 115,000. That's 34% of our total costs. This follows on from the incredible growth and activities that all of the staff are leading. The parish share is a regular amount which is paid to the Oxford Diocese, and it's to pay for Will and Danny and their pensions and for the rectory. This is 24% of our total costs, but there's nothing we can do about it. We can't alter it, and so it's the one item we have absolutely no control over it, despite Will keep mentioning it to me. We've just got to pay it. As I've said in my report, charitable giving is our church tithe and comes in under budget, which is bad. However, I'm encouraged that our mission costs are also significant, 31,535 there, and they cover many items such as Alpha, food service, outreach, pastoral care, minibus, and many of the other activities at the centre. And I should also add that the centre is cost neutral. It neither makes money nor costs money, which is great news. But both combined are 48,000, which is 14% of our total income, or 21% of our planned income. Now, building maintenance includes 11,000 for the final stage of the nave lighting upgrade, but otherwise that's just maintaining our wonderful Grade 2 listed building. SIPFAM work is the children's and young people and families work and their expenses for the year. Other expenditure includes bank charges, running the office, costs of running the contemporary and traditional services. So, where will our money go in 2018? We're expecting to spend up to 370,000. That's up 10% on last year, up 35,000. You'll see the proportion of our total expenditure on staff costs is now 41%. That's £10,000 higher than last year. It should be noted, and if you recall, a couple of years ago from the previous legacy in 2015, we set aside some of that money to sort of prepay some of the staff costs for children's and young people's work, contemporary worship leader, and rector's PA. But that's all been used up by 2017. So the full staff costs in 2018 are therefore coming out of our general fund or our kind of current account, on top of our existing everyday expenses. But as a growing and active church, this proportion of staff costs is not unexpected. Again, charitable giving is our tithe, whilst there is also the mission expenses, making a total of 18.4% of our planned giving. Other building projects to come in this year are the final £13,000 on the organ restoration, a new CCTV and fire upgrade system, final part of the kitchen upgrade, and a new church notice board, all of which were meant to have been spent in 2017. So, where we pray our money will come from in 2018. We're budgeting for an income of 311,000, with 80%, or just over 250,000, of that coming from planned giving and tax rebates. The trouble is we're a successful and ambitious church, and we want to fulfill God's plans for God's work here in Buckingham. So we've got a bit of a shortfall between the 311,000 our expected expenditure of 370,000. So we've got a shortfall of 58,000. So how can we sustainably fund this shortfall? In the past, we've been very lucky with legacy income in 2015, and then that cushioned our shortfall. Therefore, couldn't we just use some of our unrestricted funds, which you'll see from the accounts are 311,000? We could do, but a lot of these are already committed elsewhere. What about next year? We can't keep just dipping into our savings. Many of these costs are ongoing, and just using up the general fund is not a good idea. What about our legacy of 180,000 from 2017, which is also included within the 311,000, just by the way? Surely this can be used to plug the gap. It is true that that could be done, but the PCC has recognized that our greatest need is for additional support for our rector will, and believes that that would be best met by buying a house which will enable an assistant minister, who would require a house, to come and join us, and that would then be an asset for the church. So that's the aim of where the legacy money would go. Therefore, you can see from the graph that we've done a legacy transfer of 33,150, but that still leaves a giving shortfall of 25,000. And we're looking to the unstinting generosity of our wonderful congregation to try and fill this gap. However, we do have a couple of plans to help this along. The first one is the Parish Giving Scheme. This is run by the Church of England. It's a different way of professional giving management and gift aid recovery. But what it does allow is it allows donors to increase their giving by inflation each year, which actually has a remarkable effect on giving. After consultation, we're hopefully going to launch this over the summer, hopefully combined with some teaching and discussion in our Connect groups, and also some continued teaching in church. The second is even more exciting and cutting edge. As you know, we all carry less and less cash, especially those of us who are a bit younger, or those of you who are a bit younger. And so we're now buying a card reader. This will allow contactless payment, Apple Pay, as well as larger chip and PIN donations. We don't quite know how this is going to work with our little basket going round for the offering basket, but we're going to trial it at the 6 p.m. and we'll see how we go from there. Just another thought. Mike Evans last year planted this seed. If all the adults who attended our main service and that would appear to be around 240 of us, if we're all able to tithe, i.e. give 10%, of an assumed minimum wage income, this would give us £342,000 worth of income. I've got the maths here if anyone needs it. To which taxman would add an additional 50,000, and that would make a total of about 440,000, taking into account the other income we also get. Think what we could do with 440,000. Now, not all of us are on minimum wage. It works both ways. Some earning far more, and some earning very little. But there is a principle here of giving sacrificially. Lots of people are giving of their time, but in order for the church to carry on its good works, which we all love to see, and we're not after gold candlesticks after all, we need the money. There's a biblical principle that 10% of our income should go to the Lord. Now, how we work out that 10% is between each of us and God. Is it pre-tax? Is it post-tax? Is it pre-utility bills or post the mortgage payments? We need to work out what sacrificial giving is for each of us so that we can continue as a church building God's kingdom here in Buckingham. Now, that's the end of my financial report. Are there any questions?
Harry, thanks very much. Yeah, so Danny, get your trainers on. Ron at the back.
I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Harry, for that presentation, which puts something that's really very complex, as it's got bigger and bigger, very simply. The charts I find very, very helpful. The question I want to ask is about the charitable giving, which is a relatively small proportion of our giving. But to ask you, A, which charities did we actually give to? And B, I was very pleased to see your figure of 25,000. Traditionally, going back a number of years, and I was treasurer myself a few years back, this church has given 10% of its unrestricted income to charities.
Yep.
When did that stop and why?
I couldn't say when it stopped, but the plan is very much the plan, and so the charitable giving is the responsibility of our mission and outreach group, headed by Keith Croxton, and their goal is to give 10% of our planned income, which is unrestricted income. So the goal hasn't changed at all. We did underspend last year, which was disappointing or a shame. Partly, as I said in our report, one reason for that was we were going to spend the money on Will's trip to India, but that didn't happen last year, so that happened this year instead. That doesn't quite make up the gap. We're still about a couple of grand short. So it didn't happen last year. It is disappointing. Now, whether we can make it up this year, but certainly the plan is that we will give 10% of our planned unrestricted income this year. You asked where the money goes. I've asked Keith, and Keith does a report, or the Mission and Outreach do a report to the PCC, which has all this information in, but that then doesn't seem to go any further. So I've spoken with Keith, and we're going to make sure that does go into the annual report, so you can get it next year. But just so you know, we support the Cortman family in Peru, we support Emma Cotterill, we support Compassion as our three main things, and then there's that sort of tier one, which is kind of preset, and then other things come up through the year, Open Doors, Buckingham Churches Trust, Shoes for Romania, sort of smaller payments throughout the year. But we'll make sure we get it in next year. Does that answer all the questions?
Ron.
Hold on, microphone.
So wait for the mic.
I'm hard of hearing, according to my children.
I was curious about this CCTV upgrade, the amount of money spent on that, because last year and the year before, you explained that would be a one-off. There wouldn't be any more expense. You actually used those words. There wouldn't be any more expense on CCTV. Now, why are we paying extra money to upgrade something which was serviceable in the first place?
Right.
Batteries.
Gosh, Ron, you've got a good memory. Do you see that little camera up there? That was our sort of first toe in the water in terms of increasing the security in the church. It was a wireless system, so we didn't apply for a faculty because you can just go up there and take it down. That system didn't work properly because the church is used so much that it kept on recording and the batteries ran down because it's not mains powered. Now, since then, we've had another couple of break-ins and some other stuff that's gone on, and the PCC has decided that if we are to be serious about keeping the church open during the day, and bear in mind, a lot of churches with all this kind of kit tend to be locked during the day. If we're serious about keeping the church open, and that's, I know, what we all would like, we need to have some kind of deterrent. And so what we're looking at the moment is a proper wired CCTV solution that records. I know it's not going to stop someone coming in and stealing, but it may act as a deterrent and it may help the police catch people. And then we also thought, because Nigel has been looking at all our health and safety, we don't have a fire alarm in this place. And so we had one person looking at a fire alarm, Mikey Roskell was looking at the CCTV, and then so we decided to join the two projects because it makes sense, because they can share the same wires. And I guess that's a long answer to your question, Ron.
We've had 3 quotes, and
well, yeah, we've had 3 quotes.
Done it properly.
So, I mean, guys, I know it's always an awful lot to take on, and I do apologize that you've not had access to hard copies of the report in as much time as you should have done, and we've learnt some lessons this year. I mean, we did get them up online for download, but I do appreciate that there will be some people here who don't do the internet, so we're going to make sure that next year we get the published paper reports done early. And I just want to apologize to Judith and Pam, who poured themselves out into kind of meeting this deadline, and then we failed on the printing front. So please accept my public apologies, you two, for that oversight. If you do have questions later on, bring them up at the Q&A, because, I mean, I don't know about you, all these facts and figures, my sort of heads tend to get a bit dizzy with it all. But I think the bottom line is there's a lot of good stuff going on, but there is a deficit. Yes. Harry, thank you.
More tithing. Yes.
Thank you very much indeed. So I think Harry is not actually, the treasurer. He's the sort of finance director. I think Pam would normally do the next bit, but I think we're agreed that Harry is gonna. Is that Pam through the gap? Are you okay with Harry doing this? Yeah, she's okay with it. So the presentation of the annual report and accounts. This is part of the legal part of the proceedings. Would someone like to propose that we... No, you can't do that, Ron. Can you?
Yeah, so long as it's not about voting for people to stand on a PCC, I can vote.
Okay, so you've had a little expert whispering in your ear next year, so you can vote now, can you? Right, proposed by Ron Bondoc, seconded by Paul Wallace. All in favour? There we go, thank you. Anyone against? I'm learning something. Every APCM I learn something. Okay, and also I believe that Pam wishes to appoint the auditor Hills and Burgess for 2018. They've done a good job. Pam's nodding. So would someone like to propose that? Harry, you're allowed to propose it, and seconded by Paul Hirons. All in favour? Anyone against? Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, so Harry, you're off the hook now. For now, on to item 6, election appointments, and only those on the electoral roll may vote at this stage. Is my microphone drifting in and out, or is it okay? It's okay. Yeah, brilliant. So, the election of deputy wardens, Pam Fox and Paul Hirons have very kindly agreed to stand. And being a formal deputy warden entitles you to be, you're also on the PCC. So who have we got proposing and seconding? Oh, it happens here. So no nomination forms. Well, that's fantastic. Who would like to propose these two? Pauline Stanton-Sarringer, do I have a seconder out there? And Jill Stops, all in favour? And anyone against? Wonderful, thank you very much. Welcome. And I just want to say at this stage, a huge thanks to David Squibb. I don't think David's here tonight. No. David is standing down after 10 years of warden, deputy warden, sides people, chalice rota. He's standing down. He's not walking away from church. He's just going into a new chapter in his pre-retirement life and reevaluating his priorities. He assures me that Jesus is still the priority in his life, along with Sally, but he's standing down, and if he was here, I wouldn't be giving him a bunch of flowers. I'd give him a man hug, which I'm sure he'd really like to have from me. And not. And also big thanks to Bob, but the LeGroves aren't here either, but a big thanks to Bob, who's a real help as a kind of warden light. We are down a deanery synod rep, and I did mean to kind of twist some arms before the meeting, but while I'm talking, Paul.
May I be the synod rep? It's a bit complicated, but because once you're on the diocesan synod, you automatically go backwards and become a member of the deanery synod and in fact the PCC. But this year is the end of that triennium is the lovely word, for the diocesan synod. And to get voted on it, you've really got to go up the other way. So I would like to, for this 1 year, be back on the deanery synod by vote. Please.
Who will propose, Paul? Wonderful. I see a sea of hands going up. Susan Mylan proposing, seconded by Paul Wallace. All in favour. Well done, good and faithful servant. Thank you so much, Paul. And I don't think Donna is here. She normally sits over there in the evening service, but I don't see her there now. But if she's watching on live stream, hello, Donna, and thank you so much for all you have done whilst being on Deanery Synod, and also our fabric representative. Right, so we now go on to the on to PCC elections. And just before we go into that, there are 3 people who are either rotating off or standing down. I just wanted to thank Flo Thornton for really, Flo's not, is she here? How come you're not sitting next to your husband? This is really confusing. Okay. It's a long story, okay. It's complicated. It's complicated. But thank you so much, Flo. And I don't think Tom Mallory's here tonight, is he? No, Tom is standing down. Tom and Rosie come to the 11 a.m., and that's a real shame. And as I've said, Donna is standing down as well. So thank you to those 3 for all you've done. So we come to the elections of PCC members. Tim Jones, Tim, are you here? Yeah, wonderful. Tim is actually taking over from Donna as our fabric representative. And actually, there is a huge amount to catch up with and to do in that role. So do please be praying for Tim. He needs a handover. I'm praying Judith might induct him into the mysteries of the faculty procedure, because I can't think of anyone else who's a black belt at that. Lots to do. So thank you, Tim. And you're being proposed by someone called Claire Jones and Steve Watkins. I think spouses are allowed to propose spouses, aren't they? Okay. And Pam Mason-Evans, who sends her apologies tonight. She's poorly. She attends the evening service. She's been proposed by David Sweeney and seconded by Keith Hagan. Harry Morton is proposed by Tim King and seconded by Sarah Dumbleton. Harry, in fact, has been co-opted onto the PCC for the last year. And a newcomer, Harry Stoltz. Lovely Harry and Anka are here, very, very stuck in. Harry's part of the Land Rover restoration team, good man. And Anka is involved in all sorts of children's ministry and things, so you're making a real difference, you guys. Proposed by Sarah Dumbleton and seconded by Ellie. Thank you very much. And finally, Will Zanelli, extremely important person in my life, as he's overseeing the restoration of the Land Rover project, being proposed by, I'm not doing any plug, I'm not plugging, for more people to join the Land Rover restoration project. Proposed by Joe Ashpool and seconded by Anka. So I think that is it. So can we have someone propose? What do we do? We just do check. All in favour. All in favour. There we go. We've done the proposal. All in favour. Anyone against? Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you to, thank you. Thank you to those new people who are putting themselves forward. And Jerry Causer, this is your big moment. The sidesperson list. And fantastic to see a wonderful list. And I'm just going to name you all because it's good. Anna Kavanagh, Anne Exelby, Audrey Hurst, Beverly Stockill, Brian Akehurst, Claire Jones, Derek Lohman, Elaine Causer, Geraldine Collins, Jane Foster, Kathy Robbins, Liz Mayston, Margaret Akehurst, Mary Mellowish. We need to pray for Mary. She's a bit poorly at the moment. Pam Fox, Pat Cox, Robert Cumming, Rodney Blackall, Ron Thompson, Sarah North, Sue Mantle, Sue Watkins, Tim Jones, and Warren White. So what do we do? Could we have someone to propose? Jerry Causer is proposing. And any seconders out there? Jill Stops, all in favour? And anyone against? And Jerry, thank you, so that's carried. So Jerry, are you still looking for, is it Chalice Rota you're looking for? Right. Jerry is the very large former police officer standing at the back of church. He will twist your arm if necessary. Thank you, Jerry. And thank you, those people, for all you do at the 11 a.m. And interestingly, we're trying to set up a similar sort of system for the 9:30 with, we're not going to call them deputy wardens, I don't know what we'll call them, service wardens or something, to handle security, to do the money, the head count, and also some people, in a sense, to mirror what goes on at the 11 a.m., which is done with such aplomb every Sunday. So there we go. So the next item, how are we doing for time? We're doing well. I welcome Rosie Hayes. Do you remember you did the questionnaire, the online questionnaire, before? I think we launched it before Christmas. Well, here is the response.
Is my microphone working? Can you hear me? Great. Okay. Yes, we started this questionnaire in December in 2017. You might remember doing it in January. I don't think anyone did it in December because we're all very busy, but it was about 2017. So this is what we're looking at. And I've particularly picked out some pieces of the responses which are relevant for everybody. So I haven't gone into detail about specific services. There's a few questions in there which weren't as relevant, but I'll just give you kind of some highlights. So if we could... Yeah, so this is who responded. So we're looking at particularly, I think, people who are over 40 or who kind of generally responded to this. You'll notice that the biggest age category there is 70 plus, that's the beige line. I think it's quite interesting that this was an online survey and it was mostly done by people in that age group. I think that's really good information, actually, that we're all obviously very competent these days with our tech. And you'll also notice that there's a lot of kind of girl power going on here. So the female group is much bigger. That's a Church of England thing, but specific to our church as well. So there are about 2/3 of women. And I think we have a brilliant men's ministry, and we are working on making church more approachable to men, but that's something we can keep on working on. I think it might be worth noting as well that this, because of that slight age skew, this maybe isn't the best data to look at if we wondered what's really great for people who are in their 20s and have just joined a church. This is definitely going to be kind of the people who are in this room, the people who've been around for a long time. You can see that because everyone has been here for more than 5 years. So when we asked how long people have been coming for, it is mostly people who've been here for a while, and I think that's probably because of the information on the next slide. The majority of people come here because it's their family church. I think that's really encouraging information, not only because well done for bringing your family to church, but also it says really good things about our children's ministry, families and youth work, that we are able to retain people that way, that people grow up here. That's wonderful. We've obviously also got lots of people who have a friend bring them. That's also brilliant. And the really interesting one here is online. So the number of people who solely hear about us and come to church because our website gets a decent amount of presence, our Facebook, we live stream our services, all of that is work that actually is being done by people in the background, and we should really thank them for making that quite a big contribution to the growth of the church. We then asked some goals and priorities sort of questions about what people want from the future. So we asked, what is the most important to you in a church? There were a lot of options on here, but I've given you the ones that came out well. So out of 10, our average response was 9.1 for Sunday worship and good biblical teaching. Good. It could be higher, but that's where we want it to be. Other things that are important to people: outreach in the community, serving on a team, our food bank, youth ministry and children's ministry, they also came out quite high. I think those are excellent priorities to have. We also asked a few questions that broke down and let you type into the box what are you passionate about, what's important to you in a church. I found that when we let people make up their own answers instead of prescribing them, we are all very, very different. And what we want is completely independent. There weren't two answers that were the same. So these are the ones we can agree on, but it's worth noting there's lots and lots of things that we're all very different on. When we asked if you know the vision of BPC, 69% of people said yes, that's great, but 31% didn't, and I think that's something that we can definitely work on. If there really is a third of the church who don't know what the vision of the church is, I would say it's a little worrying. So we can definitely keep on talking about the vision, and Will's going to talk about that in a moment. We also asked everyone to rate how they thought their service was doing. Now, I can't tell you which service. I can't break it down by which service they come to. That's maybe something we can look at next time. But we got really good ratings. People were very happy with the way that welcome and hospitality were being done. If you're on one of those rotas, by the way, well done. I think we're doing amazingly for hospitality and welcome. And equally, teaching, impact on your week, very high, sort of over 8 out of 10 on average for people's responses, so those are great. And this is a word cloud which we produced by looking at everyone's answers overall. So this was freely written in. You can type in anything you want into this box. And here are the ones that were popular. So worship and teaching are up there. But it's worth noting that so are connect groups and friendship. And I think there's something in there about community. And so we also need to consider those things, I think, alongside the kind of the big Sunday stuff that we think we do really well in services. We need to think about how we connect people up during the week. We asked some questions about the future. I'm not going to go into loads of detail, but this was something that people could freely write in. What would you like to see in 5 years' time? These answers were very, very different. Everyone came up with loads of really creative stuff. There wasn't a lot in common, and these are the ones that came up more than once. So it could be that it only came up twice, but here's some things that we do have in common with some people. We want to see growth. Obviously, that's brilliant. And part of wanting growth is that we want to see some sort of new space or worship centre. Those did come up quite often. We also want to have an increased presence in Buckingham, and I think that's to do with the growth and outreach. We talked about interaction between congregations, which isn't something we talk about very much, but that came up a few times. And also women in leadership, more space for children, an assistant minister, and more parking all came up more than once. So those are all hot topics for some people, but again, these were quite disparate, these answers. In terms of giving, we asked you a few questions about giving, and the interesting one here is what percentage of your giving goes to BPC? So the majority answer here is this yellow bar, about 75%. I think that's brilliant. If you give to some charities as well as church, but 75% of your giving goes to us, great. But it's interesting that so many people actually answered about 25%. That's really interesting. So it would be, I'd be really interested to know how that works out for people and how you do the mental maths of how much you should give to other charities versus your church. And about could you go back a slide? About 76% of people knew that everything that we do, so our building and our staff and our everything, is paid for by giving rather than through some sort of centralised funding. 76% is, that's pretty good, but I would say that probably follows the numbers on the vision, and that's something that we could keep on communicating to everybody to make sure that some people aren't in the dark about that. We also asked if you are satisfied with the way the PCC spends your money. I think that's a really great question, and I'm very happy that yes bar is really big, so that green bar is positive. There were a few disagreements, and I think it would be very interesting to break some of these things down, and maybe in a future questionnaire we'll have a little bit more level of detail in some of these questions, because there are some interesting bits in there. We asked several questions about volunteering, and these are all really interesting too. So this is one that I would really be interested to dig into. Do you think we make it easy for people to get involved in serving? 31% of people said no to that, and I think that's a really interesting one. If you are sitting here today and you don't serve, and it's because we don't make it easy enough for you to serve, I would love to hear from you and know why that is and what it is that stops you. And if there's something we can do to help people to get more engaged, I would be really interested to know what that is. So please email me if you have any thoughts on this. We asked everyone how well we were doing within their teams with leadership, with spiritual equipping, with training, and with safeguarding. I'm happy to say that those look quite positive. I would say that, so the leadership came out really well. 8.3 is the average out of 10. I think that's great. And safeguarding procedures also came out really well. But I think that spiritual equipping and training maybe are things that we can bring those up to sort of more towards the 8. So it would be great if we did start to look more at how we train people and whether we include spiritual equipping in part of the training and try and get that more into the life of our teams. And we also have in there that 61% of respondents serve on a team. I would say that's actually quite low, but it might be to do with maybe the demographic of people that reply to this survey. I think if you're the type of person that loves a good survey, maybe it's, again, to do with that age category. The over 70s were the largest age group who replied. Maybe those are people who can serve by filling in a survey rather than by being on their feet all day on a Sunday. So again, there's just really interesting information, and hopefully we'll sort of dig into these over time. And this final thing that we asked about, which I want to tell you about, is connect groups. So about half of the people who replied are in a connect group, and I think that's really interesting because I would have guessed that it would be more. And of the people who are in a group, it's almost 50-50 whether they attend every week or every other week. So I think those are really interesting to look at. I think it would be great to hear what it is that stops people from being in connect groups, if there is something. And I want to encourage anyone here who isn't in a connect group and is wondering whether it would be useful for you, that 7.9 out of 10 was the average response when we asked people, how helpful is your connect group for you? So if you're not sure whether joining a connect group would be helpful, 7.9 is pretty good. So I would encourage you to think seriously about joining one. And that's all I have to feedback for you.
Wonderful. Are there any... Yeah, I was very impressed with that. Thank you. Obviously, time is marching on. I'm just conscious that it's now 8:30. But if you do have any questions while that presentation is fresh in our mind, go for it. Or perhaps, yeah, Ruth.
I was just going to say, the reason that you got more 70 plus is that it's the biggest age category you've got, because the others you've got in 10-year groups, whereas 70 plus.
Yeah, that's true.
Is the biggest.
I think we've been surprised by some of this data, and actually it will structure the way that we structure next year's questionnaire. So next time, I think having a 70 plus isn't all that helpful, and we should have split it out much more so that we could get a bit more information about that.
I was surprised at how complicated it was putting this together and how much we've learned. We asked some bad questions. Keith.
Thank you, Danny. Thanks very much for that, Rosie. I just wanted to know what the percentage response was against the potential return. Did you work out? Yeah, and obviously that helps to know how statistically representative it is.
Yeah, definitely. I think that we had a really good number of responses, but it's very hard to pin down exactly how many people would consider themselves to be church members. And also it would be probably helpful in the future to try and filter these questionnaires by whether someone's a church member, whether they're on the electoral roll, whether they come regularly, etc., because there are people who are loosely involved. But we had over 100 responses, and I think for an online questionnaire, which people aren't passionate about doing, I think that was pretty good. So if we had the same response next time, I think we'd be happy.
Wonderful. Well, listen, we need to crack on. And Danny. Thank you, Rosie.
Hello, lovely church people. I have the pleasure of leading our SIPFAM team. SIPFAM stands for Children, Young People and Families. So we have Emma King, who is our youth pastor, Tom Bryce is our kids pastor, and Joe Bryce is our families pastor. And this team is an absolute delight to lead. Each one of them goes way above and beyond the call of duty, and so it's a real opportunity for us this evening to hear some short reports about their ministry areas. So Emma is going to come and kick us off.
Hopefully my mic will turn on. Perfect. So in a moment, I'd really like to share with you some of the things that I'm really looking forward to over the next year. But before I do that, our young people have actually put together a video while we were at our youth weekend away, just to share with you the highlights from 2017. So enjoy. we're just at our BPC Youth Weekend Away at the Frontier Centre, and we just wanted to tell you a little bit about what we've been getting up to over the past year. So enjoy!
So we went to Soul Survivor, and
idea of some of our highlights. I just wanted to share a highlight for me was going to Soul Survivor with a small group of our young people, and I think all of them met Jesus in different ways, some for the first time, some just building on their relationship with him, and I think even the leaders, all of us came back changed in some way. And then perfect God timing, we did Youth Alpha, so it was just really cool to watch them develop their faith, and they continue to do so at the moment, so really exciting. So just a few things that are coming up this year that I wanted to share with you. We are going back to Soul Survivor, and when we came just back after in 2017, I said in church I would love to see 30 of us going in 2018, and then instantly regretted it because I was like, oh no, now we're not going to get to that number and I'm going to look silly. We have 26 people signed up, and I am really confident that we're going to get probably over 30. So I'm really excited about that. So please do be praying for us as we go back to Soul Survivor. Another thing I just wanted to share with you is just continuing to look at kind of the overall vision for BPC Youth. And one thing that I think is really important is making sure that whatever age a young person joins, whether they come in from BPC Kids at year 6 or they join at year 9 or year 13, that there is kind of a clear pathway for them, that there are things for them to get involved in no matter what age they are. And so that just kind of hopefully shows that in a clear way. And And one thing that we're trialling this year is rather than moving them up when they go into year 10 straight away to older youth, we're going to have a transition year, just recognising that not everyone is ready when they're going straight into year 10 to move up to older youth. So I'm hoping that will be really cool, just to give people the choice to choose when they want to move up in that year. And then by the end of year 10, they'll all be in older youth. So again, please do be praying that goes really well. So just a couple of other things. I'm in conversations with the local schools, and I'm hoping to, those are the things there that I'm hoping to do. That's really exciting, and I think that would be a really good opportunity. Also, Serving Sundays, which is actually launching in 2 weeks' time. So basically on the first Sunday of the month, we're going to have young people serving, mostly at the 6 p.m, rather than going to a youth group upstairs, probably also at the 9:30. So please do be encouraging young people. It's a really good opportunity to be giving them basically giving them the opportunity to use their gifts, like their God-given gifts. So it's really important that we as a church family really encourage that and encourage them. And finally, so Holiday Club. I'm really excited about Holiday Club this year. It's going to look a little different for young people. Basically, there's going to be provision in the evenings. I think it's the first time it's been in the evening. And it's going to be really cool. Got loads of plans. I'm happy to chat at the end if you'd like. And then in the morning for the kids venue, we are going to have a team of young leaders, which I think is really cool. And so young people are, again, going to be given the opportunity to come and use their God-given gifts and to be role models to the children and basically to put their faith into action. So really exciting. And I guess finally, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to anyone involved in BPC Youth. We've got a really committed team of leaders, so thank you for being involved. Youth ministry isn't exactly the easiest ministry to be involved in, I would say. I think kids maybe are a little bit easier, I don't know. But yeah, so I really value the support, but also the PCC and also the church family. Thank you for being so encouraging and so welcoming to young people here at BPC. So thanks. I am going to hand over to Tom, our kids worker.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, hello. I'm Tom, the children's team leader here. I've been in this role since September, having taken over from Emma. She set great foundations for me to take on that role. I'm going to share with you a few key areas of the children's ministry. So we've got Sunday school, school ministries, and events. And then I'll conclude just with a short vision for things to come. So Sunday school, Sunday groups. Starting with Sunday groups, we provide an age-appropriate groups for children aged 3 to 6 at the 9:30 service, and for reception to year 11 at the, reception to year 6 at the 11 a.m. service. During these sessions, we play games, do crafts, interactive stories, and pray together. At BBC Kids, we are passionate about children knowing and loving our great big God. We want for all children to have a real understanding of who God is, his love for them, his amazing power, and that in meeting God, this will impact them for life. Some of the great themes we have covered this year, Armour of God, Wonderful Ways to Worship, God's House, and Holy Spirit. In September, we started a new planning resource called Energize, and now all groups are doing the same topic each week. Big Story Sundays is an all-age service, opportunity for the children and the youth to get involved up the front here, do it through drama and creative activities, and a great one was led by the youth in October half term. School ministries. From January to July, the churches together in Buckingham had a school ministry team, which mainly went into Buckingham Primary School, Borton Meadow Academy, and George Grenville Academy, with some links to Lace Hill. They carried out assemblies every fortnight, and the links with the schools are very strong, and the schools enjoy the involvement from the churches. One particular event that ran in this period and is very well received is Easter Cracked. We had 3 schools last year that took part in that. This is a great opportunity for Year 6 children to come into church to engage and hear in the Easter story through interactive stations. So in September, this team sadly reduced considerably with changing in staffing and the overall leadership changing of the team. In October, Jo Bryce came on board and with her teaching background spent the remaining time in the term visiting schools and casting a new vision, deepening the work in a personal and mutual effective way, ready to start in January with a fresh team. And we plan to do a similar event to Easter Crack called Christmas Unwrapped, but the snow got the better of us and we had to cancel it, unfortunately. Events. So church weekend away. We all had great fun exploring the theme Wonderfully Made and getting to know each other more. Glow Party. This was the first year that we ran a Christian party, an alternative to Halloween. Lots of fun was had. We had about 30 children there. And this was a great start to something that we look forward to continuing. Crib service. The nativity scene created by nearly 45 children up the front here on stage was a real sight to see, and if you missed out, you really did miss out. It was a busy service, lots of families who came through Ark and Messy Church, and so it was a really good connected time. So, vision for this year. I just wanted to share with you a vision for this year, some of which has already been implemented. So Sunday groups, to widen the provision for children in all services, exploring, starting a group for the 6 p.m. service, to give opportunities to children to step out in faith, school ministries, to set a strong foundation for a new vision to build upon, to deepen our relationship with the schools, to grow a fresh team, to start an after-school club, to run a parenting course, and events, advertise more widely, the Glow Party and the Crib service, and possibly explore other events throughout the year. And I just want to finish on a big thank you. So we couldn't do what we do without the support of the PCC, so a big thank you. And a thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a children's team leader. The volunteers have a great servant heart and work hard to make the groups an exciting place for the children to be. So thank you. Parents and carers are really supportive, and they have some wonderful children, and I love spending time with them. And I just wanted to end with this. To see kingdom potential means believing every boy might someday serve Jesus. Seeing kingdom potential means believing that every girl could affect the eternities of other people in her life. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I have got the privilege of leading the families team here at BPC, and having taken over from Amanda Marshall, she certainly set the bar high and left me with big shoes to fill, most definitely. So the presentation I'm giving is really to sort of celebrate all of what her team achieved last year. I'm going to just give a very brief overview, but if you want to read more about what it is that she had to say, please have a look in the notes that have come out to you. So BPC Families basically incorporates these three sort of main areas: ARC, Messy Church, and events. And if we move on to ARC, so ARC is a baby and toddler group, and we meet every Thursday in term time, and it's a fantastic way for people in our community that actually stretch quite far. Some come from over from Milton Keynes, stretch quite far to come and spend time getting to know each other. It's a real community feel, and it's led by an incredibly effective
effective team of volunteers. They have done a great job, and it's crazy when you come in here, actually, if you come and see it. It's loud, it's intense, it's full on. The children absolutely have a ball, and the parents have a great time. It's very chilled and relaxed, and I got to know the team towards the end of last year, before I started, and I was buzzing, ready to get going. So there's some great support in that team, and the biggest emphasis is on building relationships, playing with the children, and befriending and welcoming, and making it a place where people really love coming and feel safe here. Alongside that, we have the parenting course and Alpha course, which is a great opportunity that happens throughout the year at different stages, and some of the ARC parents have been able to join in with that, which has been a great experience, and that's a real sort of win for us, actually, is that I would say probably 90% of people who come to ARC do not come to church. So that's brilliant. Now, moving on to Messy Church. Messy Church is a place where people can come. It meets once a month, and it's a creative way to sort of explore church. So we come in and we explore a theme, and through lots of creative ideas and crafts and activities, and then go into a time of celebration, and then really sit down and enjoy a family meal together. Most definitely, Amanda's heart was to reach out into communities where maybe families don't tend to sit down to a meal together very often, and so it's to encourage that, and it's great to be able to do that. The average numbers that Messy Church was beginning to see was 80 plus, which is amazing, and we have some great new team that have joined the core team towards the end of last year to help sort of move things forward and transition from Amanda to myself. So events, Family Fun Day was introduced last year, and Amanda and a team led that, and we saw about 150 plus people attend that, and the weather did try to spoil the fun, but it didn't win. We still had a big inflatable right in here and had a great time. And the churches together in Buckingham was led by Amanda and Ron Bundock, and that is a great experience where we can really share the heart of God with quite a wide variety of children from different backgrounds across the community. So I just want to share a bit of my vision in leading all the great foundation on which I can base the BPC families on. I just want to be really intentional about, we really create an opportunity here for so many people that don't really experience church to come into this great place and get the chance to sort of really be Jesus' hands and feet by getting alongside families. And so I'd love for them to be able to connect beyond ARC and Messy Church and more into the heart of what we are all about, and come and get to know all these wonderful faces I see in front of me, and through experiencing more and more of us, they see more and more of Jesus, and that we can point them to Jesus, because we do have a great outreach through those areas of ministry. So my heart is to do that. So in ARC, we're looking to introduce a story time that's Bible-based, and create newsletters that keep reminding people of other events we're doing, and prioritize personal relationships more and more, and provide more pastoral support to our families. Messy Church to do the same, but also to look more deeply into discipleship, where we can connect them into maybe connect groups and wider things. And continue with the events that we're doing, and just have a great time and fun in blessing people through them. I love the quote I've included here, which just says, "Family like branches on a tree. We all grow in different directions, yet our roots remain as one." And BPC Family Team is a community that seeks to love God with all our hearts, minds and soul, and to love the people we come across. And may we be rooted in Jesus because of and for God. Yeah, so that's everything. I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody for the commitment, the support that you give us. So thanks ever so much.
Fantastic, really good. I know a lot of you, all those ministries are pretty much unseen, so it's great to hear exactly what they have all been up to. Okay, so I'm going to give a plug. There's a Family Fun Day coming up on the 26th of May, isn't there? And may not be your demographic, but I know Joe would love extra pairs of hands to help with that great outreach event. So moving on swiftly to item 9, which is our report, our activity book. First, a big thank you to everyone who pulled this book together. Do take it home with you, and do please pray for all these different ministries. It's a wonderful testament to all the good things that are going on in this church. And so I just, we note as a church meeting, we just note the contents of that, and then we move on. So, I normally start with giving my report. However, a lack of time will preclude that. So there should be some hard copies of this for you to pick up on the way out. There's office staff members here. So if we do run out, because actually I only asked for 20 copies to be printed, and you want one, either get them photocopied, email the office during the week. It's really just looking through what we've managed to do. And to be honest, I think in the interest of time, I'm going to just miss that out. But here we go. And this is my look ahead. And you know me, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I love this place. I love the job. I love the church. And God has been so good over the last year. Sometimes I may be overanalyzing, but when I feel really happy about the church, I do sometimes wonder whether I'm getting too comfortable here. Because the problem is, you look at the Bible and you look at all these amazing disciples and followers of Jesus, and life was never easy for them. So whenever my life gets kind of easy and comfortable here, I think, oh my goodness, am I not doing stuff the right way? And so my prayer, and it is a reoccurring theme to my prayers, that God would show me, God would guide me, God would lead me. And I say to the Lord, Lord, here I am, send me. Not in a sense of sending me somewhere else, but send me as your shepherd. Perhaps there's a different area of ministry that you as the flock need guiding into. And my forthcoming sabbatical will be a time of great refreshment. I am tired. Being a vicar of any large church, probably any church actually, the word I'd use to describe it is unrelenting. Unrelenting. It's yeah. My wife, has to call me up to bed most nights at about 11 p.m. when I'm still stuck there on the computer. It's kind of unrelenting. I don't want any sympathy, but I do pray that I will come back from my sabbatical refreshed. I think I'll be knackered after a long transatlantic flight back from the west coast of the USA, but I think spiritually I will be refreshed. And I will be uploading some prayer points for those kind souls who've offered to pray for the family over the sabbatical. I just wanted to say, don't please expect me to come back having had some kind of mountaintop experience. Having been up the mountain, come down with my sort of stones inscribed with a fresh vision for the church. That's not what the sabbatical's about. I mean, I will be doing lots of thinking and praying, but, it isn't like study leave. So don't set me up for a fall thinking I'm going to be like Moses when I get back. And just so you know, the first bits, I'm going to be living at home. The kids are still at school, so we'll see each other at Aldi and other shops and stuff like that. And then the last month, so I'm tacking on some annual leave. The last month is going to be in the USA, driving up and down the West Coast, hopefully if I can afford it in an RV or something like that. Something I've always wanted to do. So Danny will be the acting rector, although legally Gussie will be, in charge, but the reality is day-to-day Danny will be doing things. Now, I was reading an article today on cults and communes. A little bit weird. But it started off by saying the three things that pull people together is this: longing for community, the longing for some kind of spiritual experience, and the longing for some sense of purpose. And that all really resonated with me. They're the three things that I think will pull any kind of enterprise together. I mean, it could be the choir. It could be the Land Rover restoration project. But actually, Christianity traffics in all these three desires as well, but adds the important dynamic of truth, the truth God has revealed about community experience and purpose. And our longing for a spiritual experience is reflected in the first line of our vision, to be a church that worships God. So this is the vision part of the talk, okay? There are three things: worshiping God, making friends, changing the world. I'm going to be testing you over the wine at the end. The longing for community is in the second line of our vision, which is making friends. And the third, this sense of purpose, is the third line, which is to change the world. And we have this, and of course the truth that God created us for a relationship with him, that he loves us, and that he saves us through his Son. And that kind of runs through everything we do, just like the words in a stick of Brighton Rock. And so I thought I'd just use those three as hooks for how we could do better. So how could we worship God better? Well, we do constantly review our service provision, and we're going to create service teams. The 11 a.m. has a service team, but we're going to create the same for the 9:30 and the 6, and each team is going to have a team leader. And the 11 a.m., I'm your team leader, and I'm going to lead the 9:30, and Danny's going to lead the evening one. And we're going to get together once a term to debrief and also to look ahead. So that's the opportunity for the key stakeholders, the head of welcome, the head of hospitality, the head of worship, the deputy wardens with a sort of a warden's rep, who are passionate about their own congregation, to say, actually, do you know what? We're a little bit bored about, 40-minute sermons. We don't like it. Can you just ease them back a bit? We like 10 minutes. Or we don't like the music. Could we try something different? Whatever it is, we don't like the coffee, or hopefully loads of positive stuff as well. So that's what we're going to do in that area at all. And hopefully that will make us a little bit more creative at our services. We've already, Paul Milam, reading the minutes of this meeting last year, one of his questions is could we trial a non-Eucharistic first Sunday of the month at the 11 a.m.? And that's what we're doing. And actually the results of the survey on that one were the overwhelming majority of people did want to continue that, which is why the first Sunday of the month is still non-Eucharistic. And I think from the rumors I'm hearing, it's going to get a little bit more creative as well. How do we create better community? Perhaps a new church school at some future point. Being really intentional about discipleship, becoming disciple-making disciples. And our connect groups are a vital part of this. I cannot overemphasize the importance of our connect groups. And something I was going to say in here was apparently we have getting on for 200 people in the church in connect groups, which is wonderful. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And then thirdly, how do we create that sense of purpose to make a difference, to transform society around us, to make us disciples of all nations? And I think the center is a keen part of that, and I'm going to be talking about that in a moment. We've got this cycle of alpha courses. It doesn't matter. We were going to run one this term, but only one or two people signed up, so we didn't run it, but at least we were prepared to run it. And we're going to keep a view of the wider world through our mission partners. I long to see different mission groups of different ages, perhaps a youth group going abroad at some stage. I hope to take a group off to India as well. And then we need to grow deeper with God and one another, and also grow younger. I am conscious of the demographics of the church. I'm good at attracting middle-aged men. We need a balance of the team. Perhaps the associate minister should be female. And younger, and it's great to have a young curate as well, and we're trying to platform some young people to attract in more young people, and we need to grow wider in our evangelistic impact in our community. And some of what I've outlined will involve change and certainly sacrificial giving. I saw something on Facebook today which comforted me. It said, it was talking about change, and it said, if you want to make everyone happy, sell ice cream. Don't be a leader, because I'm very conscious that you're never going to make everyone happy all the time. But I just wanted to focus on two areas: outreach and kind of the admin side of things, financial and operational. And I'm actually going to start with the admin because, funnily enough, I think there'll be a lot of people here itching to ask me about baptistry, itching to ask me about the side chapel, all this kind of stuff, when actually I'm itching to tell you about how we're going to go and make more disciples. But I do recognize that we're all human, and for some people, the fabric of this lovely old building is the hot issue, the hot potato issue. But I'm just going to, we've talked about the need for more fundraising. We still need a director of stewardship. I've been praying for a stewardship director. I've twisted Bob LeGrove's arm. I've twisted David Squibb's arm. I'm still looking for someone who can take over the stewardship with some innovative thinking. If you can help me, do come and see me. We'll be leaving the benefice. I think that's a big mistake on behalf of the villages. I've said they should stick with us. We should be a team ministry, but they want to go their own way and form their own East Buckingham benefice. So before too long, we will be the parish of Buckingham, not the benefice of Buckingham. The staffing, Harry's actually covered buying a house, but I think, a church our side, I don't know of any other churches our size that don't have an associate minister. And Danny has been incredible. He's operating way above his pay grade as a curate. And I'm feeling very vulnerable about when he goes. And I do think we need an associate minister, and that's where the house would come in. And then there's changes to the fabric of the building. I'm just going to put the slide of what the back of church used to look like prior to open doors there. Okay? I'm showing this, A, because it might be of interest to people, but B, what follows is a stroll in the park in comparison with what you people who've been here 10 or 15 years or longer went through with this project. So I just want to get everything into perspective, okay? That was a major, highly contentious project which completely altered the fabric of the church. Now, what follows on after that is much more straightforward, of course. And I'd love to have a baptistry just down here. You won't know it's here, okay? It's going to be under covers. Just like the manhole cover as you come in, you probably don't even notice it's there. There's a frame that's got these stones. There's going to be frames here, and you might be, if you go like that, you might be able to hear a hollow noise. And I'm going to be able to baptize people, which is, funnily enough, what happened in the early church and in the New Testament an awful lot of the time. Not a splash over the head, but a full immersion baptism as people die to their sins and arise in new life. And I think it's a fantastic idea. And someone else in the church also thinks it's an amazing idea and has offered to pay for the majority of the work. DAC's happy with it. We just need to do the detailed plans. You won't even know it's there. So please don't complain about something you won't see. That's a hint, by the way. Okay, the next thing is the side chapel. I know this is another hot topic. Okay, some people will be very, very attached to the lady chapel, but a lot of people are not attached with it, and a lot of people think it's an absolute mess. The standard of craftsmanship is pretty poor, and what the PCC is looking at doing is extending the stage over to the site, reinstalling a beautiful stained glass window that only the wonderful saints who work in the kitchen ever see, retaining the paneling, and I toyed with the idea, should I show this picture, because it's actually, it's photoshopped, okay? I'd hope to have a proper consultative thing with drawings and everything else like that at the back, but so many people have asked me about this, and we're simply not ready to show you that at this time. And then there would be some kind of, so the aim of this is for prayer ministry, and there would be chairs, and then we try and make it look pretty, and there'd be a little table over there, and the great news is if when we have concerts and things like that, at least more could be used. And I think one of the plans is to use this, which we need, and to move it like that under the window. And we'd have a cross on it, and we'd make it look lovely. So that's the rough idea. I apologize, I haven't got a full kind of design layout for you, but I thought it best just to throw that out there now, because we've got nothing's going to happen soon about this. Okay, this is just an idea for consultation, and then you can talk to me. You know, you can ask a question later, or you can talk to me at some stage. We're trying to make the kitchen more of a commercial kitchen, which I know some people can't stand the idea of that, but we're doing so much catering now, I'm afraid it's not really fit for purpose anymore. I know some people have said they hate the welcome sign. I just don't think we can be a church that is just like a preserved historical building. And do you know what? In comparison with what you guys did, you ripping out the whole back of church and building all that stuff, I think one little removable sign at the back is a fairly minor issue. And of course, if you turn the lights off it, well, you can be forgiven for missing it anyway. The other contentious issue is chairs. There's a couple of trial chairs which I've had some very helpful feedback from, and we're going to, Linda Grove has apparently spoken to people, and she said she wants to get an all-wood model in for you to have a look at. But what I'm sensing from people is that I think people now understand that these chairs are getting completely knackered. They're not good for events where there's catering, the food gets on them. We have loads of children in here, and so we are looking at replacing the chairs at some stage. But we will make sure there's loads of options for people to look at. So those are the I think those are the kind of the hot topics. And I'm going to move on. Is there a hot topic I've missed? Is there any other faculty, fabric stuff? I think, Paul, yeah, what if I missed something out?
Well, I'm sorry to bring up something which is going to cost a lot of money, but we cannot just leave the road round the church. It's getting potholes crazy. Yeah. In the last year, I don't know why, there's something in the air really round Buckinghamshire. But unfortunately, we've got a full dose of it because it is really quite bad. And riding a Honda 90, which I have tonight, you just don't want potholes, because sooner or later someone really is going to get hurt with this.
We'll put a post on Buckingham, what matters to you. No, we will have to look at the pothole situation. You're absolutely right. That's the downside of owning the tarmac around. But listen, I just want to, oh my goodness, time is running away. I just want to finish on the outreach side. Who and what follows George Pinniger? He did some, you're volunteering. You're volunteering, no. We need to think about that. He was so good at attracting people, not everybody, but we've certainly attracted a new demographic into church, which has been very exciting. The new school, that whole idea, in one sense, has been kicked into the long grass, but like any decent football that's kicked in the long grass, it will be retrieved at some stage. I have no doubt that there will be a new primary school at Buckingham at some stage in the future. And when that happens, we will make sure it is a church school. There's all sorts of NIMBYism going on from the other Church of England schools in the area, who all fear for their futures if there's a big, smart new church school in Buckingham. But we would only build new one if there was a demand for it, which was driven by new people moving in. So that's the new church school. And alongside that, an idea that when we build that, we will build a massive auditorium, which could be a church plant. It could also be, if Buckingham continues growing, the community centre will be too small. So why don't we as a church lead in building something much bigger? And so there's all sorts of strands feeding into this, but again, that's very much parked in a lay-by at the moment, so I'm mixing all my metaphors here. But so it's not going to happen soon, but I'm sure it will happen at some stage. And then there's the centre. So important for our outreach. We only have a leasehold, we can be booted out, But we had a meeting a couple of days ago, and the exciting thing is Bucks County Council is looking at redeveloping the whole area, putting accommodation on top of the library, all this kind of stuff, and they want us to be stakeholders in a new community hub down there. So although it will be a new building and we'll have to lay down the ministry for a while, hopefully when it's built, we will have the centre, we will have our own rooms, possibly with even more space there for outreach in the town. The centre has done so well, I'm saying this because so many of you help down there, that the county council see it as being a real asset to this community, which is fantastic. So in summary, I look forward to a season of consolidation where we focus on doing what we're already doing, but doing it even better. A season of getting deeper with God. A season to progress some of these fabric issues with as much communication and transparency and consultation as possible. But I hope not too much fuss, and certainly no blood on the ground. A season to get our stewardship strategy regenerated, and a season to look out into the community, to seek out the lost with zeal and vigor, always ready to share the gospel. And may we be a church that if it suddenly disappeared, we would be sorely missed. To do all things, we need to pull together as the body of Christ, to stay humble, ever reliant on his guidance and power by the Holy Spirit. I just want to finish with a couple of verses from Ephesians chapter 3. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us, to him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, which means us as well, forever and ever.